Hello, Isaac. How are you, sir?
Good evening, Ryan. How's life in Georgia?
It's cold, then it's hot, then it's cold and it's hot.
It's
So that's
just it,
about
it's just cold here. I figured I'd leave the hat
yeah,
on from being
yeah.
outside. We
Oh
had
man, it would
snow
be
on
nice. I
Halloween.
saw it was snowing. Yeah, I saw it was snowing around your area
Yep,
around Halloween, which is really cool. So
almost an inch on Halloween.
really, man,
Stick. Yeah, it was crazy.
I would like some snow. So it's been cold the past couple of days, and we traveled to Texas. Aaron and I traveled to Texas for the weekend for something unrelated, but it was pretty cold out there, which was actually kind of nice. So
Nice.
anyway, enough of the weather. We're
Enough
here to
weather
talk
chat. Yeah.
about weather chat with Isaac and Ryan. We're here to talk about board games,
Yes,
and who
sir.
better to join us talking about board games than Shannon DeWitt, who is of Southern-Fried Gaming Expo, let's say fame. How about that?
I like that. I like that.
I don't know about fame.
Well, you have
Welcome.
T-shirts, so it means you're famous,
I
right?
I
I
do
think
have a
so.
T-shirt.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do have a
that
T-shirt.
counts.
Yeah.
I had that T-shirt packed with me when I was in Texas, so it was dirty, so I couldn't wear it on the show.
That's
So
Yeah,
fair.
that's fair.
yeah. So Shannon, how are you doing tonight?
I'm great. How are y'all?
Doing good.
Good,
Doing good.
good,
Well,
doing
better
good.
than I'm better than an inch of snow. I can say that. I'll pass.
It was
I know.
fine.
I know.
It was
But
fine.
I work with a lot of people in Ohio, and they talk a lot more about that kind of stuff. And I'm like, I enjoy it here and there, but
Yeah,
Yeah, I
not in
love it.
October. Yeah,
Yeah, nah, it's early. I like to ski, but I mean, the next day it was 60 here, so it's all over the
sure.
place.
Right.
mm-hmm.
But we're
So
not talking about weather.
we're not talking about weather. We're talking
Oh,
about
good.
role playing games. We're talking about RPGs. We're talking about games that are board games that have RPG elements. And we're going to be talking about conventions, specifically Dice and Diversions, coming up in January that Shannon's going to be sharing more about later in the show. So you want to stick around for the whole thing. And so let's jump right into it. Opening question: your favorite video game RPG. What is it? We always start with our guest first.
So this is a good question because there, as a kid, I didn't even realize kind of what RPG was. I just knew I was playing video games that
Mm-hmm,
had
Yep,
mm-hmm.
certain elements, right? And
yep.
so my earliest memory, it really depends on what part of my life. My earliest memory was playing King's Quest. Do you remember King's
Oh
Quest?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
and it was more of a story driven, a little less RPG, but I kind of dropped that into the original bucket of that kind of idea.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
and then as a PC kid growing up, I mean, like I was on computers my whole life. That's my love. I went through all the classics. I played the Pool of Radiance D&D game. I played
Okay.
Baldur's Gate 1 and
Yep.
2, which now the third one's out. My son's like, "Oh, you got to play," and I'm like,
Yeah,
"Yeah,
yeah,
now
yeah.
I don't have time to play video games." And then I watched my kids grow up playing like all the Mario classic, like Paper Mario and
Yeah,
Mario
yeah.
RPG and all of those. So I've kind of watched a little bit of all that,
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
and dipped my toes in it. But I was never like one of these people that got EverQuest on my machine and never left the house for a year.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
but I would enjoy it.
Yeah.
So
It's fair.
So Rick in with the commentary. Dice and Diversions is the name of the album from my board game theme, Simon and Garfunkel cover band.
Oh, Rick.
Yes. So early, it's funny you mentioned being a PC kid and like kind of growing up on PC games. One of the earliest role playing experiences that I ever had was with a BBS. What is it? Yeah, BBS, the bulletin
bulletin
board
board
servers.
system.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. So I
Hmm.
played on this BBS. Played Usurper. Do you remember
Hmm.
that?
Hmm.
Mm-mm.
And so
Got me
it
on
was
that one.
just a text-based adventure thing. This was before any real graphic games came out. This was probably 91, 92, maybe.
Okay.
Played this game called Usurper. And I would come home from school. We had dial-up internet, and I would play Usurper. I'd just chug along, trying to go into dungeons and fight stuff, and getting killed. There was a glitch that happened while I was on the server. It was a small server, to my knowledge. Glitch happened, and somehow I walked away with like 3 million coins.
Oh,
And so I don't know if it was because I was on at the time, but I went from like somewhere in the 70s range on the server to number one by far by millions of dollars,
Wow.
millions of gold. And I just remember feeling like a king at that moment, being like, I don't know what happened, but I'm down for it. I was going in, I bought whatever I want, I gave stuff away. It was so much fun. So
That's
So it's like
amazing.
going into the arcade and finding that someone left 6 free games on a machine when you were a
Oh,
kid.
yeah.
Man, there's
You're like,
nothing better.
I can just sit here and play. Okay. Yeah. So
I think for modern RPGs, I enjoyed Elden Ring. I'm not a big solo board gamer or video gamer either of those things. But I enjoyed Elden Ring. I enjoyed Zelda's the first one, Breath of the Wild, a
Yeah.
lot. But for me, honestly, the one I probably killed the most time with was right after college on my PC, and it was slow, but it was a game I had. That was the first Baldur's Gate, and that was probably when I spent the most time. It's early 2000s, just kind of chugging away at, to the point that Baldur's Gate 3 is out now, and it's
Yep.
looks beautiful. I got to demo it at PAX
Yeah.
West, and I want to play it, but I also don't know where I'm going to find all of this time that
Yeah.
would take to get into. But the OG Baldur's Gate is a high one for me.
It's funny. I used to play Diablo in high school and college,
Oh yeah.
and I'd never told the kids about Diablo. They didn't know about it very much, and so when Diablo 4 came out, Diablo 4, right, the one that came out over the summer,
Could be.
Yeah.
Not as
So we came back from Origins, and I come home, and I'm like, "What are you playing, Josiah?" He's like, "Oh, Diablo 4. It's this new game," and I was like, when you were like a baby, I was beasting on Diablo 2 like crazy. So it's really funny to see how the things that we played as high school and college, it's still there, just in a different form.
everything old is new.
So, yeah. So what's our next question, Isaac?
Our next question, and Rick had his comment. He said the RPG Mario game, which I agree is a super good,
Super Mario
good
RPG,
game
yeah.
as well. So our next question is, what was your first experience with a role playing game? Like, what do you remember as far as going back? When did you really get a good handle? And kind of, Shannon, what you said is you were doing things that were RPG before you even knew it, but when did you really know you were doing like something in an RPG world?
So I have still to this day the 1983 edition of the D&D Red Book Set 1 and
Okay.
Yeah.
the blue Set 2 Advanced Set. And even though we weren't around the table every week playing, we were in the books and building the characters and talking on the phone and obsessed
Awesome.
with it for a while.
Mhm.
And really deep dived into it quite a bit for a spell, between late middle school and early high school, when I can't drive a car yet and I know I'm stuck, figuring out what I want to do. But definitely, and that book is tattered. I mean, you can just tell that I showed it some true love as a kid. Yeah,
I love it.
yeah.
Ryan,
Good
yourself.
stuff.
Ryan fell off his chair.
Oh,
It's
we lost your audio.
Yeah, it happens. He
Sorry.
falls.
No.
He falls off usually once a show.
Yeah, just tip right over. So good evening, Rob, welcome to the show. Yeah, so you were saying about like kind of what got you into role-playing games. So I would say role-playing games for me started with the original Hero Quest.
Oh, yeah.
OG Hero Quest.
Yeah.
I've still got
Absolutely.
my copy from the 80s. I asked for this for Christmas one year and got it. And man, I really, really love that game, and I played it. It's funny. I played this a lot with friends who were kind of like didn't know a lot about gaming, but my first true RPG experience was 14 years old. I purchased the second edition of the Star Wars RPG. They were reissuing it and all new artwork and everything. And so I learned to be a GM for Star Wars. And I was the only one in our area that was playing. And so I was 14, 15 years old, GMing Star Wars matches for a bunch of 30-year-old men sitting around talking about, hitting people with lightsabers. And, I had this ridiculous, I got a little cocky with it after a couple of years of GMing. And I had this thing called a Rancor dice, which was just a gigantic die. And if you pissed me off, I would throw the Rancor dice, and if it landed on a 6, a Rancor just came out of wherever it was, and you were gone. And I was like, it was really ridiculous. It had nothing to do with the game.
Wait, was it a D6 or D20?
It was a D6, and
Ooh.
I just, but it was rubber, so it like bounced. So it was so deeply random. I'd be like, and I would grab the Rancor dice, and everybody would be like, "Oh man!" And I just
Who made
drop
Ryan
it.
mad?
Yeah, I would just drop it, and it'd bounce all over the place. And it only happened like twice that anybody ever got eaten. But
I love it.
Yeah.
I think for me, like the earliest I can remember is getting some of those campaign and monster manuals and things, but not in Dungeons and Dragons, but like going to the library and just being so obsessed with everything Marvel. I picked up like they had X-Men ones, right?
Nice.
And old Marvel character ones. I remember reading through and being like, I don't really know what to do with this. And I had a cousin that we'd like talk about the characters and look. So that was kind of my first like intro to that. D&D was not anything that any of my friends played when I was younger, and so I didn't really get to that like full role-playing game feel until much later, which we'll talk about here in a minute.
Cool.
Did you see Bob's nice comment to you?
Oh yeah. I love Bob. The feed got really nice there for a minute when Ryan disappeared. Thank you, Bob.
So kind.
Yeah, we'll call
teammates like that. Yeah.
I know, really. So thoughts on Dungeons and Dragons? It's kind of become more popular. We've got a movie out there. D&D is not just for the nerds anymore.
Yeah, it's the movie poster.
What now?
That's from the D&D movie.
Oh, I'm not even looking at the screen. Here.
Yeah, well,
Oh, there you go. Yeah, nice.
Why would you look at the screen?
Yeah, I was reading. I don't have 7 monitors. I'm broke. I have a little tiny screen here. So
that's fair.
So how have you been into D&D, or have you played any D&D over the years, Shannon?
So, the D&D movie, by the way, which was incredible. I love the nod to the old school cartoons that was in the movie with they ran into. That was just perfect. I think that yes is the answer. There was a time back in, I think it was 2014, when Preston and myself and a few other friends decided we were going to get together and play real D&D. And we did. And we did it bi-weekly, monthly for, quite a few months. And really enjoyed our time until our DM decided he had to move out of the state. And so that kind of killed it. I know, like we did enjoy it. I think that Stranger Things has been a big push for people to figure out what that is. It is, it's definitely when you go into stores that have D&D, people would kind of take a look at it, and now it's just covered over with people playing and looking at all the RPGs have just kind of, we saw that definitely with Southern-Fried, but we've seen it. I see it at the stores too. There's a big store here in Duluth, and they have 2 big areas, and they'll have just as many Magic folks as they have people playing RPGs in any one day. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So
it's really cool to hear, some of my friends, they'll be talking about, I can't meet my D&D group. I've got a friend, his neighborhood. It was funny during the pandemic, like as we're coming out of the pandemic, his neighbors decided that they wanted to play D&D together because we had been playing kind of social distancing. We were playing Monster of the Week sitting on the porch during the October holiday, and so we kind of we kind of like enjoyed it so much that everybody just kind of said, okay, now we got to play more, we got to do more. And so my friend's neighborhood started getting together, and a couple neighbors sitting around playing D&D on a Sunday, every other Sunday. So it's really cool. So for myself, I started playing D&D right after learning the Star Wars RPG. I got invited by some friends in high school to start playing some D&D. And so I played a couple times. Didn't get super deep into it. I think I liked the sci-fi and the fantasy stuff. Yeah. I connect more with sci-fi, cyberpunk, all that stuff. I like that stuff more. So D&D, I only played a little bit.
Yeah, that's fair. I first got into 1995, I started playing Magic the Gathering in high
Mhm.
school. And so that was 3rd edition or 4th edition, somewhere in there.
Same.
And
It was 95 for me too.
yeah, and that started getting me that exposure to more of that fantasy realm.
Mhm.
And then into college, played a lot of Magic, just kitchen table with a couple buddies. So we had our own meta, right? That's just what we developed playing each other. And then one of them was like really big into D&D, and he had a group of like 10 that played all the time. And he invited me, and I was hooked. And we never used pre-made campaigns. Whoever was the DM, it was just
Yeah.
his world that he created. We saw the monster manuals, we still had the spell books, and I got so deep into like the priest wizard roles, got all the those second ed books that I had for the longest time. And I just really enjoyed it, to the point that I eventually took on that DM role for that group and just created these crazy worlds of, and the same thing, like you get that like, oh, there's this guy's annoying me. Like, you're going to go through 5 characters today. Like, this is
Yeah.
going to suck
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah.
But like just that dynamic of the fun that you would have. And to the point that my like online name in a lot of groups is still one of my D&D characters, right? So there's
Okay.
that introduction to some of that is just like, it's ingrained, and it has depth, and there's story that's woven for those characters.
Yeah.
And D&D has done a lot of that.
That's absolutely true. Bob suggested I play Shadowrun. I've looked into Shadowrun a little bit. I think I would enjoy it. I think I would like that. So
Yeah.
So what's the most unique RPG you've ever been a part of or have seen?
So
That's a good question.
I'm trying to find. Oh, here it is. So I didn't have a good answer for this, because I've really, it's RPGs are not something I ever have time for, which I think we've
Sure.
already established. I do like the fantasy. You were talking about Magic the Gathering. We got super into Magic the Gathering in college. We played it from the very beginning. Like, I have cards here at my house that are still. In fact, I found a few the other day. I've got to find the rest, because who know where my Black Lotus is, that came from like original Magic. Of course, none of
Wow.
these are the really big ones, but
Yeah.
I know there's some here. But what sparked my interest that I laughed about is for Southern-Fried this past year, we had, and I wanted to go check this out because the title just made me laugh. There was an RPG that was submitted and was ran at the show that was literally called, and I'm going to read it. I found it. Aliens versus Predator versus Star Trek versus Doctor Who versus Star Wars versus RoboCop versus Terminator versus Golden Girls. And the title
good.
alone said, I must find out what this is.
That's good. That's good. I got to
But
step
they
into
played
that
it
one.
in the RPG room. So I had a good laugh out of just reading the name. So
Nice.
And they just
Yeah.
had a fun time with it, right?
I'm sure. Yeah, when the Golden Girls are involved, come on.
Oh,
Hey, yeah.
of course.
You got Blanche up against the Queen Alien Xenomorph.
Yeah,
Come on.
yeah.
Is this going to be your new Friday Night Magic? We're going to throw some
Yeah,
Golden
yeah.
Girls in there.
That's right.
Blanche
That's right.
wins.
It's
Yeah.
gonna be good. So
Blanche wins. What's up, TK?
So I think the most obscure one. I was an early adopter of the. Oh man, I'm trying Adventure Zone. So I'm an early adopter of the Adventure Zone podcast. I was listening from day one, and so it was one of those things where when they did the one-off for Honey Heist, if you ever heard that one, Honey Heist is a role-playing game, basically like it's a one-shot where bears are dressed up trying to steal honey from a honey convention, and so Honey Heist has such a cool setup and such a ridiculous concept. And so Honey Heist is one that I've always wanted to try. But yeah, that's probably the most weird one. So
is Adventure Zone just like a RPG podcast? I just looked it up real quick.
Yeah, you don't know about Adventure Zone?
No, never heard that.
Either one of you?
Mm-mm.
Nope.
No. Okay.
I just read it real quick. It looks interesting.
Yeah, the McElroy brothers. So if you ever listen to my brother and me, the McElroy brothers do the Adventure Zone. It started as just kind of like a podcast within a podcast, and they just had this one-off that they did, and it became so popular they busted out into its own thing. And they've got a whole series of books. They've got a board game, the Adventure Zone board game, and so they've got all this lore. They done a lot of seasons. So
Yeah, it just looks at that. That's pretty cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, there's some good stuff. Go deep back into the back of the that show. It's really good. So
Yeah, I
I
like
think
to.
that I was just gonna say, I think that's proof of where RPGs have went. With all the podcast and the video shows now that they're doing
Yep.
D&D live and RPGs live.
Oh yeah.
We did D4 at our event a couple of times now, and people drive from miles away just to see this, in live in person because they only get to see them on a screen. And you would think, oh, it's the same thing. Boy, they eat it up. They love it.
yeah.
Yeah, all the main cons are having those live one shots and
Yeah.
Yeah, and the podcast, it's a fun format. There was one, it's like a Four Dads one that I came across. It was suggested to me from a couple of things. It was actually pretty funny. But speaking of podcasts, you have a podcast, don't you, Ryan, with Rick on air?
I'm not gonna acknowledge it this week. So
I'll wait till Rick comments.
I'm not
Ryan and Rick have
acknowledging
a podcast that I'm going to be on someday.
Guys, I'm getting to it eventually. So.
Next question. What? No, Ryan, you're still doing unique podcast or unique RPG.
No. Rick, you piece of crap. Oh man. Anyway. So I was gonna say some of the other ones that I've heard. I've heard there's like a RPG wrestling RPG.
Hey, that's what Rick said there.
Recently,
can we turn wrestling matches from SFGE into an RPG?
Oh, actually, yeah. Oh, I didn't even see that comment. Yeah. So there's a wrestling RPG that I've heard about. There's some wild stuff out there. So, yep. Chad, man, is this just the beat up on Ryan show? Ryan, what candle flavors are you burning this week? Your Pinterest fan page needs to know.
Last 2 weeks ago, all I talked about was Halloween candles.
Yeah, the Halloween podcast turned into a candle show because
candle chat.
You were showing candles, man. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it was unique. And then Rick said something about your Halloween articles. I can't read that comment. I don't know if you can share. Oh, there it is. It's time for 43 Halloween articles. We can't edit the podcast that I'm in. That's true.
That's true.
That's true, Rick.
So, yeah,
breaks my heart. Most unique RPG I've ever been in. Yes. I went to a one shot because of the artist of the game at Origins back like almost 10 years ago now, and bought the campaign for it because I thought I'd play it. Never played it, but just had fun doing that. Was Kobolds Ate My Baby.
Nice.
In color.
In color. This is ninth level does this. It's Chris O'Neill. I don't know if you guys know who Chris is. He's had a few games out. But it's like they do this at Origins, and you'll hear people screaming this game. They do midnight games of this. They'll have hundreds of people playing, and they always scream, "All hail King Trog!" All hail King Torg is the main kobold. But the artist for this is who I had.
John Kovalik.
Is John,
cool.
And
he's super nice. Yeah,
what an amazing dude. And I was interested in this because I love John. I love Munchkin. I love his artwork. But it was a fun one shot. Like, you become a kobold, you're destined to die. You're trying to steal babies from townsfolk, and you're going to die at some point. And then a new kobold comes in and replaces you. So it's just this constant.
That's fun.
Cycling. It's fun. It's a silly light game. So
that's cool.
Kovalik. I'll tell you a funny story about Kovalik. So he came to the first year we had tabletop at SFGE as an artist, and he got into the arcade and fell in love with I don't remember, a Frogger, some kind of arcade machine.
Yeah.
And tweeted at Will Wheaton, "Should I buy it?" And Will Wheaton tweeted back, "Yes, you should get it."
Nice.
Next thing we know, he's arranging shipping from our show back to home and bought it and took it home. And I was like, that is so cool.
That's good.
That's awesome.
That's good. That's why he hasn't been back, because he spent too much money.
Right. Maybe. So
TK, we can set up an RPG. I could run a one shot at Southern-Fried this year. One night.
Wrestling RPG?
Not a wrestling RPG. So, yeah. Anyway. So,
next question. What board game do you enjoy that has role-playing game elements kind of interwoven into it?
So my favorite board game that has that vibe is, and I have a copy, but it's not here with me, and it's the original copy, Betrayal, House on the Hill.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
My only complaint about it, not the original, I guess the first time it got popular, is that the play pieces and keeping up with your hit points, they all fell off. You
Oh
couldn't,
yeah, they're
you
terrible.
couldn't. It was awful. But the game itself, I think it was because my son was getting into board games and would
Mhm.
have friends over, and that played different every single time,
Yeah.
right? And so you would have one. I think of all. I mean, we probably played, I don't know, 8, 10 of the scenarios, and all but one was just a blast.
Yeah.
And the one that wasn't, we just happened to hit it lucky, and it was over before you knew it. You get those every now and then, but
Yeah.
really enjoy that game for a lot of different reasons. So it has its
Yes.
faults, but a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Sure.
I was actually thinking about like a game that it's a dungeon crawler, really. It's Clank.
Wow.
So it's got some of those tropes of role playing games, and it's a dungeon crawler. I think of the fact that you're leveling up because you're getting better cards. You're kind of traditional fantasy. You're going up against a dragon, and you're collecting treasure and gold and all that stuff. So it's one of those games that is so accessible to newer gamers and anybody who has just whether they're coming from the RPG side and they're like, I kind of like fantasy settings.
Yeah.
Clank is a really good entry point to say, hey, you like that, why don't you come play Clank and check that out? So yeah.
There's so many different games. I always have this huge pile. When we talk about the top 5,
Rick wrote a book. First time I played Arcadia Quest, my mind was blown. Didn't know much about D&D. Just got into the hobby. I thought it was incredible, and and I thought I would buy it and play it forever. So,
wow, that's kind.
Nice.
Plays it forever. The one I thought of was Root.
Okay.
Root has this campaigny kind of feel to it, even though it's not a campaign game. To me, it feels like a game that just everybody's doing their own things and trying to be synced up, but it feels like you really take on the role of your character, whatever that is. And I think Root has some depth of like, hey, if you like role playing and you like taking on a character, this is a gamified version of that.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, so Shannon, it's your time to shine. We want to know all about. So first of all, the way that we got to know you is because of the incredible Southern-Fried Gaming Expo. It is my favorite convention of the year. I've been very vocal about how much I love this convention. It has something for everybody. I remember Rick going to Southern-Fried for his very first time. He was like, I think you and Josiah need to come up here, and I think you need to check this out because it's got a little bit of something for everybody, and their tabletop space is growing. Well, little did we know how big that tabletop space would be. So tell us about Southern-Fried and its evolution.
Sure. So I guess 11 plus years ago now, we started talking about having a gaming convention that was encompassing of all gaming. And our first year, we couldn't take it all on, so we focused on that arcade pinball console element in a medium-sized hotel in Atlanta. We had an incredible first year. We kickstarted. Our first event was a Kickstarter. You can still go out and see all the silly videos we made to promote our first year. And then our second year in the same space, we were busting at the seams. It was just it was a good space, but we'd outgrown it immediately. And we thought this is our opportunity to move. And we did some investigation, and that move allowed us to move into a bigger space, which is where we are now. It's the Cobb Galleria Convention Center and Renaissance Waverly Hotel in Cobb near the Brave Stadium.
Yep.
And the advantage of that is it let us introduce board games, which we wanted from the get-go. And you're right. We started, the difference between us and a lot of conventions that have board games that aren't board game conventions is in those scenarios, you're a room somewhere in the hotel, right? And the problem with that is no one finds it, and it feels awkward, and connecting with folks is difficult. And what we wanted is something up front and center. So you're walking to registration and you see people sitting down and playing tables and playing games, and we did that. We did exactly that, and we saw people that we didn't even know played games sitting down at these tables.
Yeah.
And after the con, we got a lot of feedback from Because at first people were like, "Oh, they're not," and we still got that for a few years. You're not a board gaming convention. You're a pinball convention. You're
Yeah.
not a pinball convention. You're a board game convention.
Right.
And we're like, okay, we're both. And it took a while to really make that connection. But when we started getting all these emails, and we got a lot of people saying, I came for the pinball and it was loud, and I came out and sat down and I'm in love with this new board game,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
I fell back in love with board games. It just made a smile from ear to ear, because I personally feel a gamer is a gamer is a gamer, right?
Mhm.
And if you
100%.
like one, you'll find elements in the others that
Yeah.
you're going to be passionate about. And we watched that little con grow. This past year we had over 8,000, which
Yeah.
is
That's so good.
incredible. And we doubled the size of
Awesome.
our of the hall, the event hall. And with growth, you get changes, and people are upset that you have to go in a certain door you didn't have to go in before. But all those are minor, to see the look on people's faces when they come to the event, and see
Yeah.
kids who've never played a pinball machine see a ball bouncing around
So
instead
good.
of a
Yeah.
screen, or to see people sit down and play an RPG or paint a miniature. I think we had over 300 miniatures painted this year. And all those things just make me smile. To get on an
Yeah.
elevator in the show, no one knows who I am, and they're just sitting talking about all the great things they have, or they
Yeah.
had to do while they were at the show, just makes me smile ear to ear. So we've created something that I think families can enjoy. It's very
Yeah.
friendly. Yes, we have wrestling, and we have pepper eating, and we have things that are fun, and a prom, an 80s prom with an incredible band. But we also, those are for things to do, once you're done
Yeah.
gaming for the day and you want to
Yeah.
unwind and do something fun. And, with 4 panel rooms going all weekend, I think there's a little bit of something for everybody. And that was the
Yeah.
goal. So,
Some of my most memorable moments have been realizing how odd this con is. The first time, one of my first times, was the fact that I peeked my head in, and the wrestling room is completely packed out 30 minutes before. People are waiting and chanting, and the wrestling is wild and crazy. You have wrestlers walking in and out afterwards and talking to people and signing autographs. It's so crazy. And then 2 years ago, Chad and I ran a Green Team Wins room, which had tons of people playing, but we had to wait for the 80s computer, like, flea market group to leave. There was wall to wall people packed in there to hear a talk about how to, like, solder something onto an 80s computer. And I'm just like, what is this? Like, why is this room so full? But that's what this con is. A bunch of really geeky people who find a lot of enjoyment in all these different things. So
yeah, so we added the Vintage Computer Festival. We added, I guess it's been its third year,
yeah.
third year. And it's crazy because I walk in there, it makes me feel old, and I'm like, oh, I had that computer,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, but spent many hours on them. So it's excited to see them up and running. Like, I was an Atari kid. My Atari computer, I was an Atari computer kid, and I went in there and see they have adapters made now that put the Ataris on the internet. They've
That's
never
cool.
been on the internet, right? I was like,
Crazy.
That's
really?
really cool.
It's crazy. Yeah, so you're right. It's a little bit of everything, and
Yeah.
that was the goal, was to touch a little bit of everything gaming and touch it well. We didn't want to introduce anything we couldn't do. Nothing should be stuck in a back room and just
Yeah.
to be there, right?
Yeah.
If we weren't going to do it well, I didn't want to do it.
Yeah. So now the next evolution, obviously, Southern-Fried is continuing to grow year after year. The tabletop presence at Southern-Fried is continuing to grow, but there's another evolution. There's a tabletop experience for Atlanta that's actually starting this January. So tell us about Dice and Diversions.
Yep. So Southern-Fried always takes place in the summer. This year we're July 19th through the 21st, always in July. And so we love SFGE, but SFGE is a lot of power and configurations and just planning out the wazoo. We've always wanted to have a space where we could go and just play board games. We've been talking since pre-pandemic about what this could look like, and the pandemic put us on the back burner. But we decided that we wanted to try another convention in Atlanta that's specifically related to board gaming, and that's Dice and Diversions. And so Dice and Diversions is our first year. We're actually January 12th through the 15th, which is MLK weekend. we originally announced it as Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but with MLK Day being Monday and a lot of people being off work, we decided to go ahead and extend it to Monday. Now our vendors will stop on Sunday. We will have vendors, but Monday people can keep gaming in a little bit smaller space there on into the day. And I think there'll be a lot of people that want to do that, right?
Yeah.
And so the big difference between this and SFGE is we know that guy. Look out.
That guy. Why am I looking at the camera? What am I doing?
I don't know.
I'm looking at the camera. What an idiot.
That's funny.
I showed you like Tantrum House.
Yeah, I know. The Delps look natural. I'm like
that other guy up there.
Jeez, man.
Anyway. So anyways, basically we wanted to have an event that really felt like a tabletop event. And when I say that, we have our full library of from SFGE from the tabletop, which is over 1,000 games. We've added a lot to it even since this summer. All that's available at the show, which is great. We'll have, a huge play and win availability. We're running what we're calling eat, play, win events, where you pay a little extra and you get to eat food and I know, eat, play, win. I know.
I love it.
It's cute. And we're having those, so you'll be able to learn a new game, possibly win a game. That'll be exciting. We're already working with some partners on that. We're going to be announcing some of that soon. In addition, it plays like a normal. So if you've been to, an Origins or any kind of normal, Tantrum Con, any of those events, we're going to be using tabletop events so people can submit to be a game master. 8 hours can get you a free pass for the weekend. Just sit and play the games you want to play and teach them. People love doing that kind of stuff. So that'll be available. We will have vendors available. A little bit different than SFG. They'll be in an area right beside the game players, and we'll close those off at night. But we're going to let gaming go all night long, which we've done at SFGE. Yeah. I think the biggest thing, the biggest smile on my face ever at SFGE came, 5-6 years ago. And from my hotel room, I can kind of look down through the glass into the area people play tabletop. And I'd gotten up extremely early one morning, I think it was my shift, and was getting ready and looked down, and there's still a circle of people playing games down in the open area at like 4 a.m.
Love it.
If you enjoy games and, you sleep all day and play all night, hey, that's fine. So we're going to try to leave the gaming open as much as we can for Dice and Diversions, but we're doing it, it's a much smaller event. We're hoping about 350, it's at a good size hotel for 350 ish in folks, 350, 400. And, we have a good amount of space for it. So we have an RPG room. We have some rooms where we'll be having some special events. We have our library room. So there's a lot of movement here for this. And I think Atlanta is ripe for a good tabletop event. We have our big shows like Dragon Con and whatnot, but they're not tabletop specific, right?
Yeah.
And so having an event that focuses on that, where you really get people who know how to play certain games and you get opportunities to play things you've never played before, I think Atlanta needs that. And so we're really excited about where this can go.
Yeah, absolutely. So you guys if you look in the comments, diceanddiversions.com, you're going to see that link. You want to register for this. Our family is already registered. We are going to be there. We have our hotel booked already. We are very, very excited about this. You definitely want to go. You definitely want to be a part of this first con. I am very excited to see where this goes in the future. And it's something that even 2 years ago, Bob, myself, and Aaron were talking on the way back from Origins, wishing that Atlanta had a tabletop convention that could grow and change and have something in the Southeast that would be something to point to. In the tabletop industry. And so I think this is going to be it. So
Atlanta's got a lot of gamers. We know it. If you look at the stores in and around Atlanta, there's at least 4 big ones, and I think they all do fine independently. They're not fighting for customers. They do well. And so we know the gaming community is huge in Atlanta. And to have a weekend where you can come together and play, I think is going to be a exciting thing.
Yeah.
So,
and if you came
I was just going to say, and just to be clear, this doesn't change SFGE at all, right?
Yeah,
SFGE is going to continue to be the exact same, a much lighter, a much lighter, different kind of tabletop experience. They'll both be fun in different ways,
Yeah. So. Southern-Fried, it's funny because Southern-Fried is such a big deal for us because my kids, Josiah is a big video gamer, and so he comes to the show. He plays video games till his face falls off, and then he comes and sits down and plays party games with us at night, and eats pizza and sits around and talks with the people that we play games with. And so it's really cool. And the girls get into it. They love all the really cool, nerdy, geeky artwork that's always all over the different artists and different DIY creations that are there. They love that stuff. And so they've been able to play VR. They've been able to go to 80s prom. I mean, there's so much to do at Southern Fried. And I'm excited about both of these conventions, and hopefully you guys are too. And if you came for the RPG talk and you are game master, I would suggest you check out the website, because right now they want you to set up some GM time.
Need some volunteers.
Yeah.
Yep,
need
absolutely.
some volunteers to
And
run.
so we'll actually split that. So 8 hours, you can split some of that as volunteer hours, load in events, helping the desk, and you can split the other half to be a GM if that works. So as long as the hours equal 8, we're going to let you in. It's and that's low for most cons. We want people to go and have fun as well.
Absolutely. So Rick was in the Oreo eating contest SFG this year. He was actually just hungry, and that's why he signed up.
Just wandered in.
So
free food. I'm in.
Yeah. He was really upset when they wouldn't let him carry the rest of the Oreos out with him, but rules are rules. So, but yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yep. Oh man. Okay. So let's talk about our pick 5. Why don't you present our pick 5, Isaac?
Yeah, so today is the Game Chat presents pick 5. We are looking at 5 games that you would recommend, board games you'd recommend to somebody who loves role-playing games. So maybe somebody in your life who has only played role-playing games, like we're talking about, like a D&D. Maybe they've only played role-playing video games. These are not the 5 best games. These are 5 games you might suggest to somebody who loves and enjoys role-playing games. So we'll do them one at a time. Shannon, start with you. Just talk about one, do a quick blurb of why you think it'd be a good suggestion, and we'll just roll it, I guess, that way.
So I'll try to put mine in order. My first one, I don't necessarily think it's the best. I think it's a great way to transition. I got this as a gift, and I actually got to play it once or twice, and I see where they were going with it. I think it needed a little more, and I'll talk about that in one of my other games. But the D&D Adventure Begins, which is like an intro to D&D, but a little more on the board game side. But anyways, bottom of my list, but still worth mentioning, I think.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Fair enough.
Official name on there.
Since it's sitting closest to me, Hero Quest. I have not played the new edition of Hero Quest, but still to this day, every other year or so, I bust this one out and play it with the kids. I think one of the things I struggled with in high school is getting my friends to play something like D&D or Star Wars RPG. Yeah. They would absolutely sit down if they had little people to move and little orcs to kill, and Hero Quest is great for that. So
absolutely. I've got this dragon from my first suggestion. Do you know what game this is from?
Joan of Arc?
I'd be impressed. No, it's actually from a new WizKids game, and that's Onslaught. Onslaught is their D&D map game. It's this is one of the expansions that just recently got. I haven't even opened, but every one of them's got crazy. That reflection is horrible. Nice. Every one of them's got just a box full of minis, and you're taking on a full campaign or a full group. You've got your wizard, you got your warrior, you've got your healer, awesome. You've got a little bit of everything, and each one lays out a campaign similar to like a Gloomhaven, where you're taking things on and trying to beat the game. So it's a fun little RPG.
That's cool. That's awesome.
Well, number 4 for me was a repeat because Heroes Quest. It was on my list too. It's a classic, right?
Yeah. It's a lot of fun to play, and it puts it on the table so you don't have to use your imagination as much.
Absolutely,
for sure.
Next up, Role Player. Role Player is a dice game that has nothing to do with role playing, but it does have something to do with drafting dice and allocating skills. It's basically what your character sheet before you go into playing a game of D&D. And so role player is really cool. I love manipulating the dice and just filling it out and seeing how your character builds. You've got alignments and classes and stuff like that. It's really fun, and it's a game that I don't play enough, but every time I see it on my shelf, I'm like, oh crap, I gotta play role player, you know.
Yeah, that's a great choice. Speaking of the game that is illustrated by the guy that got me to buy Kobolds Ate My Baby, Munchkin is a good game for people who are into role-playing games that you want to introduce them into board gaming. I played the snot out of Munchkin when I first got into board gaming. Have every expansion, have so many collectibles, so many autograph stuff. It's ridiculous. I went searching for John at Origins. That was my first whole reason to go to Origins, was just to get him to sign my main board there.
There we go.
That's great.
And I actually have a custom made case for all of my cards that my father-in-law made me, and John drew a giant picture on it. It's like 2 feet by 2 feet. So Munchkin is a great. Oh, you like dungeon crawlers and the fun little thematic stuff and the inside jokes with RPGs? Have I got a game for you?
Yeah.
High recommend for new players.
So TK has a question. Can you shout out a few of the opposite? A good RPG for someone who loves heavy Euro games. Ooh, that's interesting.
Heavy Euros.
Are there any RPGs that just push cubes around? I don't know.
Oh, that's tough. TK.
If anybody has any suggestions, throw them in the comments.
Heavy Euro RPG.
Yeah. That's interesting.
I got an idea. It might be on your list. We'll see. I'll wait and see if you put it out there.
All right. So what you got, Shannon? Number 3.
So number 3, I have not got to play much. I got to really look at and was fascinated because the culture brought me in, and that's the Star Wars Imperial Assault with the little RPG, all the little miniatures. And I wish I had time to paint and design and look and really get into that, because I totally could. But my brain checks out after so many hours. But definitely gorgeous. So if you're a big sci-fi fan, I think you could really plug in. If you like the theme, right?
Yep.
Yeah, no, that's I actually sold my copy of Imperial Assault at Southern-Fried. Wasn't getting enough play. I don't have space to hold on to things that I'm not playing.
Nope.
But it was really fun the couple times that we did play it. So Chad rolling in with Mice and Mystics, Last Night on Earth, Fortune and Glory, Betrayal on the House of the Hill, and Dead of Winter. All fantastic. Dead of Winter actually... it was stuck behind another game, and that's why I chose something else. So I was being lazy. Otherwise, it would have been on my list. So TK, we think we have an answer, and it's actually on my list. My father's work is a digital board game hybrid. It is very Euro-y. It is a worker placement game, and it has what you do is you play these little boxes that give you kind of some starting items, and you're playing in error. And what you do is you play 3 generations of a person's family, and so it's your father, then the next generation. So there's three generations trying to complete your father's work because he was a mad scientist and experimented, and the town might have hated him or may have loved him. But my father's work is fantastic. And TK, that might be the game that you're looking for.
That's awesome. Who makes that?
That is Renegade.
It's Renegade, right?
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a big old box of stuff.
It is a big box. I've seen it before. I just couldn't remember who made it.
This game, I bought this at, shout out to Dice Drop Games in Macon, Georgia. They had a copy of this last year from the Kickstarter, and I went ahead and picked it up. It is phenomenal. It was actually in my top 10 last year. So,
wow.
Isaac, you've got a screenshot.
Yeah, I didn't grab the box, but you said like that thematic app game, and I'm like, oh my gosh. Oh, is it on your list?
It's on my list.
Oh, then you can just show your copy of it.
Yeah.
Destiny's was my game of the year in 2022, 2021.
Same here. Yeah.
Whatever year it was. What a great game, thematic as heck. You get the music playing, you get the app going, you get all the background sounds, and the theme just drips. I still am waiting to get Divinus, the follow-up to that, which it plays very similar. I got to play the first 2 parts of that in the prototype, but man, Destinies is such an amazing game.
The Witchwood expansion came in right before Halloween, and we did not play it, but I'm looking forward to sitting down with it.
I am always the traitor. That's correct.
There we go.
So the next game is something I played just a few weeks ago, and I never heard of it. It was kickstarted. It's called Kinfire Chronicles: Knots Fall.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a beast of a box. But it is done. It is created so well. All the components are done just elegantly. But what makes it good? What makes it really good for this is it plays 1 to 4 cooperatively. You are a team that's going out to do stuff, but it walks you through the rules so elegantly to understand the mechanics. It's like playing. Everyone's played the video game where basically it talks you through the whole first level.
Yeah.
It's that kind of vibe where it's introducing components and it's teaching you as you're playing those levels until you're up to speed enough to just run. And I felt like it did it so well that if someone's wanting to get into that world, I don't know where it goes when when you finish all the story in it.
Yeah.
I guess you hope for the next one, but it was done so well. I got to give a shout out for it. So
nice. That's it right there.
Yeah.
Nice. That's
Look
cool.
at all that stack on the left is all the different stories, and they make that picture, and each one has its own. Yeah, it was really pretty. Yeah.
Nice. I have not heard of that one.
Another big box.
It's nice. It's a beast. Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. So my fourth one is Destiny's Witchwood expansion. We just talked about all this. Witchwood expansion came out. The miniatures that come with it, the production quality, the quality of the writing, the fun branching stories. Destiny's is really, really good, and it's one of a little reason why this connects with us so much. When Elden Ring came out, my son didn't end up buying it. He didn't have any money at the time, and his cousins came over. They're talking about Elden Ring. That's all they could talk about because they were coming over right after the release. They were talking about Elden Ring, and my son looked at him and said, I have a board game that's kind of like Elden Ring. And he introduced them to Destinies, and I find them at 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning playing Destinies by themselves, sitting at the table. And I was like, this just warms my sweet, sweet board gamer heart.
One of the ones I just was thinking about as we were talking about like Dead of Winter and that, and I'm not going to go try and find it, but is like any type of social deduction game because you get to take on a role. So coup, werewolf, even Spyfall, right? Some of those games that have that like, oh, I'm going to take on this role. I think those are great games. The wide array of social deduction role games. The one I got to play recently for the first time was Hong Kong Deception Hong Kong.
Murder in Hong Kong.
Hong Kong. Yeah, that was enjoyable. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would because that's not my type of game normally, but it was fun to kind of you get into the role, you get into the mechanics, and you take on a role play in that. So
that's awesome. All right, Shannon, last one.
So I'm going to throw it back to what I already mentioned. I'm not going to get Ryan started, but I do like the Halloween themed games. We're not going to go backwards, but I do. And so Betrayal, I really hit. I know, I see it. I
haven't taken them down. We just got the decorations.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Betrayal hit the right head on the nail for me, and I think that it was just enough. Of the keeping track of your person and trying to get out and trying to solve the issue and it changing depending on what scenario you have and you having the person in the midst and sometimes even that would flip. It was just enough to really connect at the right time that I fell in love with it. Yeah. That's good. And I don't play it hardly at all now, but I did have a big surge where I really enjoyed that game.
Have you
with the right group of people?
Yeah. Have you dug into Legacy or the 3rd edition?
No, I haven't. I've seen both and considered it, but haven't. So I have to find that's a game that I think if you introduce it to the right folks, it's a big win.
Oh, 100%.
But some of the people I play with, that's not their style game. It's more, so.
No doubt. So my last one, anything from Red Raven Games.
Oh,
This one
yes.
is near and far. It's funny because I actually haven't played this one, but I've played a ton of what's the one right before it?
It's 2 words too.
Far and away.
Far and away. Yeah. Isn't that it?
No.
That's a movie.
But anyway. Anything that Red Raven does, like there's these role playing elements, there's resource collecting, there's storybook, there's all of these great. I feel like you can't go wrong with a Red Raven game if you're looking for something that has some RPG elements, something
Above and below.
Above and below.
There you go.
I've played that so many times. In fact, one of our my copy of Above and Below is with a friend. Because they were just like, hey, I'm good. I want to play this. So near and far, I haven't played it. I've owned it for a couple of years. It's on my shelf of opportunity. So
it's a good way to put it. I like that. So talking about campaigns again, the first campaign game that we really played, and the only one I played with my family directly, is Charterstone.
Charterstone's good.
And Charterstone is a fun thematic. There's a story being driven and pushed. And in a campaign game, again, if you have people who enjoy role-playing games, they're used to the story that continues and weaves. And something like Charterstone or any of the pandemic seasons, pandemic legacy, anything that has like a story driven campaign, I think is a great way to get somebody who loves RPGs in.
So I got to agree with Chad here. The Scooby-Doo version was a great way to connect folks with that. I just wish the components in that would have been a lot better. It was like cheap cardboard and shit, but it was cute and the theme was great, and so it was a good win.
Scooby-Doo, we just recently published a Scooby-Doo Munchkin. The Scooby-Doo license, getting on all those games. So
Scooby-Doo Escape from Haunted Mansion is really good. It's Coded Chronicles.
I love that game. Yes.
Yeah, that's Sean and Jay did the Coded Chronicles stuff.
Yep.
So very, very good.
And Ryan, did you play the Scooby-Doo pinball machine?
I did not. But I did play a pinball machine this weekend that I had never played that I absolutely fell in love with. Ghostbusters. I hadn't played that one before. The
Preston
Ghostbusters
owns that
machine.
in its basement. Yeah.
Does he? I guess. Hey, just text Preston.
Making a trip to Gainesville. Yeah.
These guys during Southern-Fried last year. My favorite. I'm gonna pan this camera over here. You can see here, Shannon, on my wall, all my Venom stuff sitting over there, and these guys are like, "You got to see this pinball." So. I was sad.
We were the second show in the country to show it. They had it at Comic-Con in San Diego, and it came straight to us right after. So I think we had 12 of them, and the big blow up Venom, and it was awesome.
Funny story about that display. I filmed a TikTok with it, an Instagram reel and TikTok with it, and I was just like, I'll just show this display because it's really cool looking. Next thing you know, a week after Southern-Fried, all of a sudden I get tagged in something, and it just keeps dinging. Stern Pinball took my video, put Eminem's Venom song on it, and it went viral. Like it went bonkers. And I was like,
great.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. So you can find that out there. If you see a video from Stern Pinball where going underneath the Venom arch and then cutting away to some other stuff, that was me. So.
Chad's got a Grail pinball.
What is it?
Flash Gordon, really? Okay.
Out there at SRP.
Is this where we cue the old Flash Gordon music?
I think so. Well, I don't think we can afford music on this show.
Yeah. Well, we had that intro music. Restream has some intro music.
So we can afford the free stuff.
Yeah.
You play like 8 seconds, right?
Yeah.
3 bars.
Yeah. So cool. So last thing, we always end every show with what have you been playing? Shannon, what you been playing?
Oh, wow. What have I been playing? So recently got in Point City. The Point Salad.
So good.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I love Point Salad, so that was a hoot to play. And then Rainbow Black, what is it called? Rainbow.
Oh, Black Hole Rainbow?
Black Hole Rainbow. Yeah. I picked it up right after Origins. I couldn't fit it in my suitcase, so I bought it right after Origins, and we played it for the first time the other night and really enjoyed it. It was got some laughs out of it. So
That's cool.
yeah, those have both hit the table pretty good
Awesome.
lately. So
we've been Priorities has been hitting the table. This one, the review goes out tomorrow on oneboardfamily.com. But Priorities is basically 5 items get rolled out, and the active player has to list in priority order what they prioritize, 1 to 5. And so when you get something like cannibalism and Crocs,
Sure,
which one goes in the 5 spot? You know, it's a tough decision.
like
and
it.
then the art project from
Gosh,
the
dang
op.
you. Did you just get
Man,
that?
Yeah, we got it 2 weeks ago.
Ugh.
It's really good.
I
Like,
need to
just
get
a heads up, we have not beaten the game yet. It
It's 'cause
keeps
you're
beating
bad.
the crap out of us. I am bad at games. We don't talk about that.
what kind of game is it?
So it's a cooperative game where you're basically a team of
Art
basically
thieves,
art
right?
Well, you're reverse art thieves. Art thieves have taken all these precious artwork and
You're
you're
recovering.
retrieving it.
That's right.
And the game comes with 6 different maps, and the first map is from Japan, and it's very straightforward, and every map after that has a different rule set, just slightly.
Beautiful artwork.
So gorgeous artworok, Vincent Dutray.
Yeah.
And this first edition comes with a poster, which is going in this room. So
Wow.
that is the poster. It's so good. So you will definitely hear more about that later this week, and possibly at the end of this year, you'll see more. So
I really need to play that.
It's good.
I've been working on my top 10 list for 2023, and I've got it narrowed down to 30. I've played 99 new games this year.
Oh, nice.
And some of them are small games, but that's one. There's like 10 that I still want to give a shot at, and that's definitely one of them.
I played Nucleum yesterday.
Oh, I know, I heard.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to play that. Very excited. Vivarium from Studio H and Hachette Games. Say domino game that's not a regular domino game. It's got some hard dominoes in here. The numbers on the dominoes you're using to select a row and column to take cards, and it's a set collection card game. You're scoring based on what you collect, but the domino aspect, and you're kind of trading dominoes in from the center, limits your selection. So I kind of like that. Very tight, easy after dinner game for the family. It takes like 30 minutes to play.
That's awesome.
The other one is the Box. David Bach and his wife started their own company, Binkadinks, and they are putting this on GameFound here in the next couple weeks. Rocket Ranchers, just simple game where you're trying to herd these space cats with some crazy little space cat art on there.
That's cool.
We did a preview of this. Easy, lightweight family game. Some polyomino play of how you collect cards based on the polyomino shape that you play. Nice. So another one that the art just pops, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people doing some really fun artwork out there that really makes a game sing.
That's cool. That's awesome. So, Shannon, where can people go to register for Dice and Diversions?
Right. So there it is right on the screen, diceanddiversions.com or D&D Atlanta, ATL.com, either one. You'll be registering through Tabletop Events, so you can also find us if you're familiar with that, just to go to Tabletop Events and find Dice and Diversions there. SFGE is already out there as well, so Game ATL, and you can register for SFGE for next summer. So both of them are open, and we're excited to have everyone out and play some games. It's going to be a great fun 2 times this year. So.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. So if you plan to go, give us a shout out. We would love to hang out and game with you at Dice and Diversions at the beginning of January. I think I'm participating. I think, Shannon, you've told me I'm participating in one of the Eat Play Win sessions. I'm really excited about that. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So you can follow us at One Board Family all over the internet. Go to oneboardfamily.com. Rick has written an article.
No, he hasn't.
Yeah, he wrote an article. So he's basically, he gets to be on the site for 1 more year. He's done minimal amount of work. And so Rick wrote about my first Castle Panic and just the fun he's had with Phoebe, his daughter, on that with that game. So check out Rick's article from My First Castle Panic. It is up right now.
Yep. You can find Ryan at his Cats and Candles Pinterest board.
That's right.
Also, you can find Gaming with Sidekicks on Instagram, Twitter, also known as the X, Facebook, and on our socials, specifically with TikTok, where we're doing most of our
Doing it all.
content and pushing it out. It's fun. We're still doing fun stuff. I still enjoy that format more than any other format at this point. So,
you know what I've enjoyed doing on TikTok?
Cat videos.
Cat videos.
Candle videos.
Candle videos. The local game store tours. So
Oh,
if you look at
I saw your Dallas one.
I love doing those. Basically, I'm going to, when I find a new store, I go through and I just say, hey, are you okay if I take some video? I would love to just share about your store and kind of point out some of the things that make that store unique. I really enjoy doing that. It's
I think that's great.
It's a great idea, sir.
So, all right,
Awesome.
you guys have a great night, and don't forget, go to Ryan's Cats and Candles Pinterest board. So that's ridiculous, you guys. Joshua Bowman hoping to go to SFG this year. Just got to get the funds in. Yes,
Get it together.
Get them. It is worth it. It is worth it. So thanks so much for joining us. Until next time, we'll see you at the table.
See y'all.
Thanks.